welcome to the 10th edition of the Extra Point Show. This is, counted them, this is number 10. Hope that you guys have been enjoying the journey so far. We had another great week of football, another victory week.
Yeah, victory weeker is always good.
Absolutely, absolutely. Always good to get a win in that playoff push for the NFC wild card spot. That's what both the teams are looking for right now. So yeah, we'll get into that. We'll talk about some games. A couple games that we wanted to talk about last week were the Patriots' complete and utter domination of the Falcons. That was the Thursday night game a couple weeks back, and that was actually a complete blowout to the tune of 25 to nothing. And
Yeah, that's
yeah,
never good when that happens. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're whatever team it is, but if you can't score even a field goal,
yeah,
like that's just terrible. I mean, ugh.
yeah. That game was at home too for Atlanta. Oh,
Yeah. So all of sorry,
no, you're good.
all those Atlanta fans.
Yeah,
Like that had to be. I mean, I feel bad for them. I don't really care about Atlanta, much, but they're not great, obviously. And I mean, their record looks a lot like Washington, but man, to go to a home game and see a loss like that, oof.
yeah. They've been a mixed bag now. In that game, they were out several key players. Calvin Ridley has been on the he's been dealing with like some personal issues, so he's been away from the team. And when they played New England, Bill just basically doubled Kyle Pitts the entire game, and he really didn't get much. Which is that's their top weapon. I mean, they really don't have much in
Yeah.
terms of receivers. They've got Russell Gage and Zacchaeus are their two receivers, and I mean neither one of them are huge game breakers. So yeah, New England got that win. That put them at 7-4, right in the thick of things of the AFC playoffs. And with the Bills taking a step back, that was another game I wanted to discuss as well. They played the Colts, and they ended up
Yeah, that was
losing.
a surprising one. That
Yeah,
41-15. Like
yep,
I didn't expect. I mean, they have a very similar record, so on
yeah,
paper, I mean, I guess it's not, but just that big of a score difference. And the Bills are a good team, so
yeah. And I think the main factor in that game was the Jonathan Taylor factor. Jonathan Taylor had 5 total touchdowns and over 200 total scrimmage yards, four on the ground and one through the air. So yeah, I
yeah,
mean
that's an amazing game. Like that's
yeah,
got to be some kind of record
yeah.
for them. I don't know, maybe not, but
It's he's the fifth player in the Super Bowl era with 200 plus scrimmage yards and 5 touchdowns in a game. So
okay, all right. So there is
definitely,
a record of some kind.
yeah, yeah. So he's definitely went out and represented well, and that brought the Colts to 6-5 and dropped the Bills down to 6-4. So the Colts have been a hot team lately. They've been playing real good football. Been on quite the tear lately.
Yeah, the next one to talk about is the Eagles beating the Saints. That one is
Mm,
especially personal to me, being that's the NFC East,
yeah,
and they are ahead of us in the division. I did not expect that. I mean, 40-29. I mean, they're 5-6 now, so like I said, they're one game ahead of Washington. So look, that's concerning. But
yeah. Yeah, and the thing about that game too was, I mean, the 40-29 makes it look like it was a back and forth shootout, but it wasn't. That game at one point I want to say was like 31-7, and due to some like late game garbage time touchdowns, they were able to get in there a little bit closer. But yeah, I mean, the Saints are a depleted team right now. They don't have Kamara, so they did just trade for
oh,
Mark
I didn't
Mark.
realize
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So Kamara's been out. They do have Mark Ingram, who fortunately they traded with Houston for a few weeks back, and he returned to where he, you know, made his name in New Orleans. So they had him, but I mean outside of that, they're really depleted. Jameis Winston, as you know, he's out for the season. They were without their top two tackles on the offensive line. They had some defensive injuries as well. So the Saints are really beaten up. And the Saints actually carried that into the following week of football, following up that 29-40 loss um, by actually having a loss on Thanksgiving. I believe it was 31-6 loss on Thanksgiving to the Bills. So the Bills, who we just mentioned, lost, got right back on track the following week. Yeah. Oh, and let me
Yeah, I'm
just
not sure what that score was. I was trying to see if I could find that.
I was just gonna verify. Yeah, it was 31-6. Yeah.
Okay.
So and then that did bring the Bills right up to 7-4. So they had a tied record with the Patriots right now in the AFC East, and the Saints after that game fell to 5-6. So they've lost back-to-back games, 29-40 or 40-29 to the Eagles, and then 31-6 to the Bills. So back-to-back losses, definitely not what Sean Payton's used to. Obviously having Drew Brees. So first season without Drew Brees has been a rough one. They're playing right now under 500 football.
And while Drew's just chilling in the box commentating
He's
now.
commentating, yeah, indeed.
So. The game that I do want to mention, the Buccaneers, the Giants. So Buck back to wing, whichever, fine. I'm not saying them, so whatever.
Yep.
This is the playoffs, but the fact that they beat the Giants is nice. Any NFC East team that loses is good. So
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that was a big win as well. I think that was the Monday night game last week. They beat them
yeah,
30-10. And yeah, we'll be talking more about that game here in a little bit because of what happened after that game. As we said a minute ago, the Chiefs got back on the winning track, 7-4, with a 19-9 win over the Cowboys. The Steelers and the Chargers had a shootout on Sunday night last week, but the Chargers pulled ahead 41-37 to go to 6-4. The Cardinals again with Colt McCoy beat the Seahawks 23-13. So the Cardinals have an NFL best record of 9-2, which is unfortunate.
yeah, yeah. It's crazy though the way this season's going. Like
Yeah.
with especially with all the wild card spots.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's really there's nothing set in stone at this point. I
Yeah, and
mean,
th- and then perhaps the best over. Yeah, no, you're right. There's a lot to be up in the air, and I was just gonna say perhaps the best game of the entire week overall may have been the Packers versus Vikings, with Minnesota getting the upset 34-31. That was just an excellent game. I think it was
I think that
16 to
was
10.
going on when I was watching the Redskins game at the bar. That they
Yeah,
had that there was a bunch of them sitting on the other side, and they kept like I could kind of see the score and what was
yeah,
happening. It's like, oh, I think Green Bay or Minnesota scored because they were all Minnesota
yeah.
fans,
They,
I
they
think.
were going back and forth like a lot. Like it kept going back and
Yeah.
forth. Yeah, it was really that way. But yeah, it was a really exciting game. I mean, I got to watch that because I was watching kind of all the games simultaneously. So, I mean, yeah, Minnesota getting the 34-31 win, which gave the Packers their third loss of the season, which is actually in a way helpful as well for NFC playoff seedings. So we've got Minnesota obviously this week, which we'll talk about the preparations for that. But that's oh, one last game to mention real quick was the Ravens had to play the Bears. We talked about the Bears beating the Lions on Thanksgiving, but last week they played the Ravens in a game where the Ravens didn't have Lamar Jackson, and they ended up starting backup quarterback Tyler Huntley, and the Ravens actually ended up pulling out the win, 16-13. So that was in that game, got tongue twisted there. In that game, Justin Fields ended up going down with a rib injury, and Andy Dalton came in and almost led the comeback. So, also noteworthy, Andy Dalton did start the Thanksgiving victory over the Lions. So we'll have to see how long Andy Dalton's in there for the Bears.
Yeah, I mean, he could ride out he could ride out the rest of the season. I mean, Justin Fields. I mean, it depends, I guess, on the injury with him and if they
Yeah,
want to put him back in. But
yeah.
and he played decently, I would say.
With the
I
rib
mean, they
thing,
won
it's
the game.
yeah. With the rib thing, it's interesting because obviously a running quarterback like Fields takes a lot of potentially shots, and just
Right.
quarterbacks absorb shots in the pocket just to begin with. So it's a situation where do you really want to put him out there if he's not 100%? But there's also the pressure, to see what he can do. He's your number one
Right.
overall pick. So we'll have to see. I'm just taking a look to see. We currently have a game going on right now as this is going on. So we're
Yeah,
just checking in.
the Cleveland Ravens game, which is not very eventful so far, still 0-0. So
exactly. So, in other big NFL news, we always like to cover, any players that get picked up and signed or released. This week there was another running back released. It seems like we've been, every week we've been talking about a released running back. And last week I think we ended up talking about the Adrian Peterson being released by the Titans after 3 games. This week we have Texans running back Philip Lindsay, who was released and then subsequently claimed by the Dolphins. I guess Houston determined that he was an expendable option.
Yeah, the Dolphins could probably use some help there. I mean, Miles Gaskin isn't like a particularly great running back. So
Yeah, I mean the Dolphins' rushing attack is currently ranked 29th in the league, so they're definitely struggling.
yeah,
Adding him is definitely going to be good. He's an explosive player. Um, Patrick Lindsay's he came into the league with the Broncos. He's a former two-time 1,000-yard rusher in 2018 and 19, and then he ended up just kind of falling out when the Broncos got Melvin Gordon. So he ended up going to the Texans this season, and after 10 games, the Texans cut bait with him, and he ends up being released, and a couple days later signing with the Dolphins. And the Dolphins' backfield is basically like you said. Miles Gaskin's the top back. They
yeah.
also have Selvon Ahmed and then Patrick Laird as their top running backs. So nobody there that's gonna scare you too much. And Gaskin's more of a threat, I think, as a receiver. Like he's really more dynamic at catching passes that I've noticed when I do watch the Dolphins. But
Yeah, I haven't watched many Dolphin games. I do think I have Miles Gaskin as a fantasy running back. I think
yeah,
for some reason, but
he's had
yeah,
a
after
couple big
that,
games when he catches some passes. Like I mean, he's had a couple decent performances out there, but
yeah, he has.
yeah. But I'd expect Gaskins to get less carries now that Lindsay is coming in. So we'll have to see how that plays out and affects your fantasy lineup. But but I'm sure it'll be good for the Dolphins. It can't hurt. Like I said, 29th ranked in the league in rushing, so that's not particularly good.
Yeah, not much more to go than up.
Yeah, yeah. And speaking of change, after that game, and we said we'd touch on it a little bit later, but the on Tuesday the 23rd, there was outside of the John Gruden situation, which wasn't performance based, there was our first firing to report of the 2021 season when the Giants fired their offensive coordinator Jason Garrett in his second season after they lost 30-10.
Yeah, I mean the offense looked really bad that game. Daniel
Yeah,
Jones just had
yeah,
a complete shit game.
yeah,
So I mean, kind of I understand why they would
yeah.
go that way.
They scored one touchdown, and they scored it when they got a Tom Brady interception, gifted. So their defense gifted the offense the ball at the 5, and they got in, and basically Daniel Jones, the one touchdown they got, they threw on a tackle eligible play to the left tackle Andrew Thomas. So it's like that's how the Giants, and then they kicked a field goal. So that's how the Giants offense has been going. So Jason Garrett getting to spend Thanksgiving with his family at home,
Hmm.
doesn't have to worry
That's
about
great
preparing for
news,
a
though.
game
I
plan.
hope it stays that way the rest of the season, especially because we got to play them twice within 3 weeks.
Yeah, definitely. But that gets me into let's talk about some of these numbers here. So the Giants were in the game against Tampa specifically. They managed only 215 yards of total offense, and they were 1 of 9 on third downs.
That is just terrible.
The loss dropped them to 3-7, and they currently rank 25th in the NFL in scoring offense, averaging 18.9 points per game. So not very good. And Freddie Kitchens, the former one-year Browns head coach, will be taking over with the play calling duties as the offensive coordinator the rest of the season. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But you would think, I mean, the Giants are a team that when we talked about the teams and how we thought things were going to go in the preseason, the Giants were a team that we thought would be around the top of that NFC East because of the offense specifically. I mean, they've got Daniel Jones,
Yeah.
they've got Saquon, They've got Kenny Galladay. They've got Darius Slay, or I'm sorry, Darius Slayton. Darius Slayton. Darius Slayton is Slay's another player, but yeah. And they have Evan Ingram, the tight end. They got Kyle Rudolph, the tight end from Minnesota. So they went and they got some weapons. Even their backup running back that filled in when Saquon was hurt, Devontae Booker, is a pretty decent player. But for some reason, and maybe that reason's Jason Garrett, that hasn't all clicked. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully it wasn't just him. I hope it continues the
Yeah,
rest of the season, but we'll
yeah,
see.
yeah. We'll stay tuned for that. But yeah, that gets us into something else that I wanted to talk about is potential coaches on the hot seat. Obviously, as we round this part of the season, the speculation on coaches getting fired starts to heat up, and who could potentially be cut loose. So we want to just discuss a couple teams that have coaches on the hot seat right now. One of those, most notably,
I would say is definitely Matt Nagy of the Bears.
Matt Nagy. Yeah, Matt Nagy. There was actually a report going into Thanksgiving that the Bears were going to cut bait with Matt Nagy.
Matt
After
Nagy, that's right.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, following the Thanksgiving Day game against the Lions. Now the Bears came out. We talked about it. Got that 16-14 win. Got their record up to still pretty bad 4-7, but it's all right. They're fighting. Yeah. So I mean now we're here, and Matt Nagy has not been fired. It's a few days past Thanksgiving, and he is still the coach of the Bears. And like we were discussing earlier, the Chicago Bears, very classy organization owned by the McCaskies. They are an organization that has never fired a head coach in the middle of the season. So that's
Yeah,
notable.
given that, I don't think that they probably will. I didn't realize that, but if it was a different team, given
A
the
lot of
way
teams,
things
a
have
lot of
been,
teams pull the trigger. They do. Right.
right, and that's what I would expect. But knowing that about them, I didn't know that. He'll probably finish out the season, but after that, at that point, they may move on.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, Nagy's been there a few years. They have been to the playoffs a couple times, including last year. But last year they got into the playoffs with like an 8-7-1 record. So it wasn't like they were exactly tearing it up. So they
Right.
barely snuck in there. But yeah, I mean a couple other coaches that I could see potentially being on the hot seat right now. There's teams that are underperforming, like the Lions.
I was gonna say any of the underperforming teams like the
Yeah,
Jets. I mean,
yeah,
Urban Meyer with the
yeah,
shit
yeah,
he's been
yeah.
doing, and
So I was gonna mention those three: the Jets, the Jaguars, and the Texans. All three of those teams are currently, they're 2 and 3 win teams respectively. And
mm-hmm.
had it not been for the fact that they were all in their first year as head coaches, I would say that they're all pretty on the hot seat as well. Usually teams don't fire, and that same thing goes for Dan Campbell in Detroit too, being currently at this point 0-10-1. But something happened in that game.
it's still
Crowd,
3-0 right now.
crowd's going wild. Yeah.
Fine. Oh,
So
Dan Campbell,
so you've got
because
teams
being
like
0 and
yeah,
10.
you've got Dan Campbell with the Lions, David Culley with the Texans, Robert Salah with the Jets, and Urban Meyer with the Jags. All of those coaches, I would say, could potentially be in danger. But the thing about that is they're all in their first season. So with that being said, they might buy themselves, some additional flexibility because a lot of times, now not always, plenty of coaches have been fired after one season. As we mentioned just a moment ago, Freddie Kitchens was fired after one season. So it does, and actually former Niners coach Chip Kelly was fired after one season, and after he was fired, Kyle was hired. So that ended up being a good move. But a guy that I do think is on the hot seat is Joe Judge in New York. Currently the Giants 3-7. I think that that could be a move that could be made, especially if the Giants offense doesn't start to click. Now here's the thing about that: if the Giants offense doesn't improve, Joe Judge lost his bait guy when he got rid, or his fall guy when he got rid of Jason Garrett. Now you can't ride the
Yeah,
way through the rest of the season and say that offense was bad. Now at this point you've got 6 games left. So at this point, if the Giants just tank, then it's
which I really
obviously,
hope that they do.
yeah. I mean, I could see them making a move on from Judge. I mean, this was the Giants team that in his first season last year was 6-10. They've got three. They're 3-7 this year. So unless they turn something around, I could see this being another losing season for them.
Absolutely.
So I could see Judge being on the hot seat as well. Also on the hot seat. Now this is a guy that they're coming off back-to-back wins, but the Miami Dolphins, Brian Flores was a guy that people were talking about potentially being fired. So that could be a name as well worth mentioning as well.
And then we also have the Everson Griffin situation.
Yeah,
Apparently locked himself in his house, dealing with some mental health issues. They did get him out of his house at some point, and apparently he's doing better now. But
yeah. That occurred on Wednesday. Defensive end for the Minnesota Vikings, Everson Griffin. He finally did, as you mentioned, peacefully exit his home. But the police and mental health professionals were responding to a call that Griffin had made to the police. He had called 911. I think that he had said that somebody was in his home with him,
right,
and he
yeah,
had a gun.
someone's
And
trying to get him, and
yeah,
he has a
yeah,
gun, and yeah,
yeah,
nothing good.
exactly. So the
And
Vikings,
police said they're certain that no one was in his home. Like it's
yeah,
definitely just him. Or they couldn't find any evidence of anyone in his home.
no forcible entry or anything like that. So the Vikings
Mm-hmm.
general manager Rick Spielman ended up showing up, and I guess they finally kind of talked him off the ledge and got him to come out peacefully. But he's on the practice report for the rest of the week as not practicing for non-injury related. So who knows when he will return to the team, but likely not for this Sunday against the 49ers. And I mean that's unfortunate for Griffin. Hopefully everything's going on with him. I mean that's good news for the Niners and obviously us helping with that Minnesota pass rush that can be pretty good. Um, so yeah, we'll have to see what ends up happening and if he returns to the team. What's notable about this is in 2018, he took a little bit of a leave of absence as well from the Vikings for a similar mental health related issue. Nothing on this scale, but he did take a break away from the team. So
Hmm.
we'll have to follow that and see what happens. But hopefully he's
So he
able.
has had a history of things like this. So it's not like this is not the same kind of thing, but a
Right,
mental health issue, and he had to
right.
take time off. So
Yeah, yeah. So hopefully he's able to get the help that he needs and move on from there. And we'll monitor that situation and see what happens from there.
yeah, wish him well. Hopefully he gets things sorted out.
Absolutely.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to this week's Redskins rundown. Or what was the other one I had? Washington. There was some other
Washington
alternative.
wrap up maybe.
That I think that maybe was what it was. Yeah, there was like an alternative since it's not
Yeah,
really the Redskins. But
yeah.
yeah, welcome to the Redskins down. Coming off a second week win against the Panthers. Cam was back. It was all about Cam, right? And unfortunately for Cam, he did not win that game. It was
Played a
a
good game.
27-21. He did play a good game. He
Played a
did
good
play a
game
pretty
though.
good game.
Cam looked
But
good.
yeah, it was a very close game. Very close game. He
For
started out pretty good. He started out
yeah,
3-3.
yeah,
He was looking strong. They were up 7-0. So at that point, because
yeah,
Gibson fumbled the ball in the red zone. So that like Gibson has been really strong for us and he's done well, but like his fumbling, I think that was his fourth fumble of the season. Is that right?
um, yeah. Let me. You know what? That's a great thing. I always like to provide
I'm
the
pretty sure it's
stats.
four. I think that was his fourth on that one,
I
I
just I
believe.
just looked up I just looked up Cameron's stats. So I mean, we'll just give them to the folks real quick. Cameron's return to starting football. Now, mind you, he did play as we discussed the week before, where he was three against Arizona. Thank you Cameron for beating Arizona 34-10, where he was 3 out of 4 with a passing touchdown and a rushing touchdown. Against Washington, he was 21 of 27, which is 77% completion, 189
That's the
yards.
same as the score. That's ironic.
Yeah, that is funny. Um, 2 touchdown passes, no picks, 120 rating. Um, just 46 yards and a third
Had
rushing
a good
touchdown. So,
game. He does well. That's what
fumbles, but yeah.
yeah, that Heinz threw that's passing him because it was
Agreed.
started helping the two. Then he just right. You could tell it was just what I saw like second goal. Just how close it was and like it was very that tied the game. Getting up.
He did really, that was the definition in there, but I don't know how that thing's off, but that
I
was
like when it didn't happen. Like that's the Tyson Taylor Heinz, fit passing to agree. That's one of the titles I've seen a pass to just in
right.
general. This close hands on the air close.
It looked a bit petite.
Yeah, at least something. It's not. It's at least very nice.
Fumbles did you say he had?
Four. See, that has
yeah. That's here on the
fourth one. I them too much. Yeah, fumble like games. Is it?
Yeah, 10 games.
Too many fumbles.
He fumbled.
Like 2 I could be like, okay, but five, that's like one in every game or in every game.
Now I got it.
It's probably less.
Oh yeah, Kyle would. That one came in really hot for us, and then next time he really carried the football. Kyle hates a motherfucker that fumbles the football. Like he will never put you in the game again. Like oh my god, like don't. That's why like the backs on our team are like they're always just like absolutely not. It's not coming out. But yeah, like I mean if Gibson played for Kyle, that shit would not fly. But
no,
go ahead.
I would think not.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so after that, Cam hits his best pass of the game a few drives later, hitting Tommy Tremble up the seam for 19 yards.
That was a beautiful pass. I have.
That was it. Was I'll give it to him on that one. That was a very nice pass.
Everybody that said that like take shot and just like it's that one for sure.
Absolutely. So I'm going to rushing touchdown by I was going to at least one time and about the tap. So I got 44 in the game.
That's an NFL.
That should be crazy. Like 4 games. Damn.
Cam is usually like fumble.
Ooh,
For Elijah.
Good. I couldn't remember.
I was like, I'll call her.
That's probably left. Like I'm Kittle fumble. Surprising. I know. I believe when that happens, but it makes mistakes, man. It happens.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah. I mean that's every player fumbles. Like that's you gotta have a fumble. Yeah, you just gotta preach ball security. Maybe give. The nice thing is McKissick and Patterson have been getting some good looks too. I mean, Washington just ran the ball damn well in that game.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Physicality.
And what's surprising too is with the injuries. I mean, after Chase Roulier has been out, we have our second center in Tyler Larson, and he went down late in the second quarter.
Yeah.
So Schweitzer comes in to replace him, and then later on in the same drive, Sam Cosme leaves the game, and Cornelius Lucas has to come in to replace him.
Yeah.
So at this point, you're thinking, you're like, dude, this we're
juggling
screwed. Like,
positions.
It's just a bunch of backups now at this point, and you're like, man, but they played really well. I have to say. I mean, third string center basically. I mean, it's like, they played much better than expected.
Carolina's a good defense, especially against the pass. Yeah. They were number 1 ranked pass defense.
And on the other side, having Chase and Montez Sweat out, the fact that the defense played really well as well. So it's interesting. Both sides of the ball seem to be playing pretty well, despite having players out that are, key players.
Key players, yeah.
So, which is really good to see. I mean, I think when the key players come back, it's going to make a big difference. Like, hopefully in the next game against Seattle, that Logan Thomas and Curtis Samuel are back.
Yes.
Yeah, because that I feel like that's gonna make a big difference. Like if Curtis Samuel's back and 100%, Logan, we need Logan Thomas probably more than anything at this because Seals Jones, I think he might still be out.
Seals Jones is even still out. Yeah, so it's been Johnny Bates.
He's done pretty well as well.
Yeah, so I mean, that's the one encouraging part is that like they've been winning anyway, and they've been giving guys like John Bates used to come in probably on like goal line packages as like a third tight end. John Bates wasn't getting snaps outside of like probably kickoff coverage and special teams. So, I mean it's given him and he was always a blocking tight end in college too coming in. So it's giving him an opportunity to go out there.
Yeah, and that definitely shows that he's a blocking tight end because his blocking has been really good. Like. I mean, the catching, we'll see how that goes. I mean, he's been good so far with what he's got, but his blocking has been very good.
But to get Logan Thomas back would be huge. To get Curtis Samuel back, who's played in, I believe, 3 games, huge. I mean, you definitely need that, especially against Seattle. Need you guys to win against Seattle.
Yeah, absolutely. So, after that, Taylor threw a very good Terry in the end zone to tie it up, to make it 14-14 with 9 seconds left in the first half. So, very good way to end it, tie it back up.
The kid's been impressing me lately. Like I okay, so the stretch. Let's talk about it real quick. The stretch of like the ten, and the 13. Those games against, I believe it was the Chiefs, the Packers, and it's escaping me right now. But yeah, good
Yeah, I don't
teams.
remember
But yeah,
offhand.
it was just basically an offensive shit fest,
Yeah,
and it's really great to see that the teams pulled together, and started to I think play their best offensive football of the season, which has been great.
yeah, I would agree. The last 2 weeks have been, for the last 2 weeks after the bye week. It seems like after the bye week, they've just become much more of a cohesive unit, and it's looked a lot better. And Taylor Heineke as well. I mean, he's had a good season overall. I'd say fairly good, but like especially
Yeah,
the last 2 weeks, he's looked better. Like he's learning and getting better with time. So I mean, I'm glad to see that he does have the rest of the season to keep playing and to see
yeah,
what he can show us. Because at this point, he's just exciting to watch. I don't know what it is about him. There's just something about it. His
yeah.
energy and his heart and just the way he comes at it is exciting to watch. And we haven't had an exciting quarterback to watch in a long time. So I don't get the fans that don't like him or like, oh, he's just a backup clipboard holder. It's like, dude, like, why would you not root for the guy? Like, come on.
I mean, yeah, people just like to. Trust me, I know all about your quarterback getting heat. So like,
Yeah,
I
that's
think that
true.
we have the most, and not to get it, but I don't know. Maybe you Washington fans haven't heard, but Garoppolo in the World Super Bowl, we wouldn't do.
No, that's not true though, because before they shit online, the same
They were
people,
still hating on
the
him.
exact
It's
same
it's
shit.
true.
Now that there's Lance, worse because they're like, oh yeah, put Trey in play, and I'm like, you know what? I think I'd rather back to this point. I hope he gets better.
Yeah, just drop it real quick. Other game, by the way, was against Denver. So it was Kansas
Mm,
City, Green Bay, Denver,
okay.
which are all actually good defensive teams for the most part. Um, and then against Tampa, where Taylor was 32, 81% completion, 256 through the air, one touchdown, no pick. And against Carolina, 16 of 22, 72% completion, 206 yards, which isn't a ton of yards, but it did. I mean, they were the
It's
ball
not a
so
lot of
well
yards, but
that they didn't need to. But
exactly.
the key thing here, three toe picks, 1.3 rate.
Yeah, he's had a phenomenal week. I mean, but it's a reason and it keeps going down. But I mean, it's
Yeah,
great. I hope it keeps going. And this Monday night, I mean, I'm not usually. I hate to be confident. You're like, I think we, because it's just
right,
one of those things where it's like I just would
right.
rather go. Yeah, what happened? But I'll be
Oh, I agree. I agree. See, as something that in their division, a lot of their games played them one back after
finger
injury.
injury.
Had something inserted into his finger. He hasn't looked. And then they lost 20-13 to Air last week. Better, definitely looking. They just don't look cohesive as a team. It's been really weird to see versus Seattle in the past. And we play them twice a year every year, so it just doesn't seem like they're the same like big bully that they once were. So I
I
think that
agree. Yeah,
if you guys can come out and you guys can run the ball and just really get physical with them, then I don't think Seattle's going to have an answer.
I hope so, man. I mean, I really do because that would be a third straight win, and that would just be. I mean, and going into almost going into the set of division games, the five in a row, we got the
Yeah,
Raiders
yeah,
after Seattle, but yeah, to get that one, even if we lost to the Raiders, I mean, and then go in, if we
yeah.
can go into the division games and win. But just to cover last bit of the Panthers game, in the opening drive of the third quarter, Heineke ended a 10-play drive with his third touchdown pass of the day, which
Yep.
his passing game that game it was definitely on point. It was definitely one of his best games.
It looks great.
After that, Cam came back and tied the game, make it with his second touchdown pass to Christian McCaffrey,
Yep.
his favorite target, which of course who
Yeah,
wouldn't
I
love
mean,
that?
I don't know why you don't throw to that man. I
Yeah, it's
almost
like
like think that Carolina should personally throw to him more. It's like, how much are you throwing to Christian McCaffrey and like double it?
yeah, right. I mean,
I was
you can't go
like,
wrong with him really.
he
I was
comes from
hoping he
good.
was still going to be out. I was like, oh, is he still,
No,
wasn't he hurt? I was like,
no,
is he still hurt?
yeah,
Like, no,
no.
no, he's
CMC's
not.
been playing. CMC's been
Yeah,
playing.
that was a minute ago. I don't know why.
Yeah,
I was wishful thinking. I was like, I hope not.
but that's
But
that's big. That beats a head-to-head. Like you guys playing for the wild card spot. Carolina's the team that's also competing for that wild card spot. So you guys hit them with a head-to-head. If you guys finish with the same record as Carolina at the end of the season, you guys have the head-to-head, tiebreaker against them. So
Wait, would that happen with San Francisco too?
we don't play you guys.
So it's if you play people, if you play them.
Yeah, like if you have like so they look at several things. Like so, let's say Washington and the Niners both finished 10-7, right? So they're like in that spot for the wild card spot. So they're going to look at things like record within the division. They're going to look at things like
Oh, right.
yeah.
Okay.
They're going to look at things like what else? Division record against like your conference, the NFC. That's why like if you're gonna lose a game, like losing a game to an AFC opponent, like like you were saying the Raiders, would almost like
Hmm.
have less like impact. Like it sucks, it's a loss, but
Right.
like if you're gonna
But if
lose,
it
you'd
comes
rather
down
lose
to
to an
that,
AFC game, than like
yeah, exactly.
because like the NFC is like your conference. That's where you want to be
Right.
straight. Yeah.
Yeah. So last thing, Joey Sly made it. Well, almost last thing. Made it 24-21. And side note with Joey, love the Joey Sly signing so far. I mean, Dustin Hopkins. Like at first, I was kind of mad. I was like, really, you bring in this guy Chris Blewett over? I mean, Dustin Hopkins wasn't doing great, but like, come on.
Yeah.
But Joey Sly has been. I don't think he's missed
Joseph
anything.
Sly. No, he
He
hasn't
has
missed
been
yet.
on point. And then he had the winning. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, the final field goal, but not winning, but to make it 27-21 after we stopped them on 4th and 3. McCaffrey got stopped right before the 6th, and
Yeah.
that was game.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Cam hit him like right at the sticks, but I guess the ball didn't get like far enough across. But like I saw that game on the
it
big
was
screen.
really close.
Yeah,
Oh, you had the big
yeah,
one in front?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
nice.
yeah. So Cam hit McCaffrey right at the sticks, and I was like, oh, they're gonna have to bring out the chains and measure here.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a close play. I mean, Cam almost led him to a comeback, and I know there was some talk about the whole. Um, so like originally when you told me about the Cam like going to the middle of the field thing, I thought that the game was in Washington, and that would have been a lot more disrespectful. Like if he went and did that,
Oh,
like but in Carolina, like I have less of an like going and spiking the ball, like doing that for the home crowd. I was like, all right, that's Cam.
yeah. That
Yeah,
makes
like,
sense.
like I was like I thought he went and maybe did that at the team logo, and I was like
Oh, and
I
that
don't
would be fucking hilarious
I
if he
don't
did
I don't think he'd
Washington.
disrespect Ron like that. I mean, T.O. once did that to
No.
the Cowboys. Terrell Owens caught his second touchdown of the game and ran the ball. I'll have to send the video to you later on YouTube. We were playing Niners Cowboys, and it was a heated rivalry in the 90s. But T.O. runs to the middle of the field, sticks the ball on the star, and the Dallas safety just comes up and cracks him. And, like, it draws a flag.
Oh.
Yeah. I was like, Jesus. Yeah, but that's, like, key moment of football history there, right there. But that's where the move came from. I was like, he did the T.O. Yeah. But,
All
yeah.
right. Well, yeah, that's about it for this week. Definitely cover the Seahawks game here on Monday night. Hopefully, it'll be the third straight win for us. That would be really nice, and get on track to maybe get back to win the division. I mean, that is a bit of a stretch at this point, unless Dallas just continues to lose out. But they haven't been looking too great. I mean, they did play really, really well against the Raiders. It's a very close game. So we'll have to see how they do as well, because kind of our fate is entwined with theirs, obviously. So, but if not, we do have the wild card. So
Yeah, I mean, there's seven teams going with the expanded wild card, so
yep. So there
definitely got
is
a chance with that.
absolutely hope. It is not over yet. At
Yeah,
one point, a couple weeks ago, before the Bucks game, before the bye, I think I was like, "Oh man, I feel like this season's about over." Like I don't think it. But you know what? I was wrong. So not done yet.
not done yet.
On to beat those the rainy city bitch pigeons, as I like to call them.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully, drop them down to 3-8. That'd be lovely. Really, just crush their
Absolutely.
morale for a follow-up game against San Francisco the next week, and hopefully get run out of the building. And remember, Washington fans, feel free to jump on and throw some negativity Seattle's way next week when we play them, because remember that they are the ones that were playing your beloved Robert Griffin the third.
Yeah. That's why I've hated the Seahawks since 2012. After that, so definitely need to win that game. I
Rabbit.
mean, it's been some time now, so it's not as bad. But then, yeah, but when you fucking mention it, I'm like, oh man, those bastards.
I
But we're gonna take them down. We're gonna get that third straight win.
I'd
So
love to
that's
see
what
Pete
matters.
get fired. Talk about Pete on the hot seat, maybe. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, I don't think so, but that would be funny.
Yeah, probably not. He's earned his job there, I guess, over time. But yeah, have a good night.
All right, tune in next week, everyone. Have a good night.
Hey, what's going on, faithful? Big win this week, 30-10 win over the Jacksonville Jaguars. We're going to talk about that here a little bit more in 1 second than they did,
Yeah,
but they were really never in the game at any point in their offense. Really just didn't really look like they were going to threaten it at any point. So with that win, we did go to 5-5, and currently hold the seventh spot in the NFC wildcard spot as of right now. If the season ended today, and that loss dropped the Jaguars to 2-8. So after winning two of their last four, and that was another factor in me thinking that they'd play a tougher game. Is they'd won two of their last four. The Jaguars
yeah,
had looked like they were an improved team, but
very true. They did look
yeah,
a lot better the last two games, and I hope that that's not a trend that continues with Washington because they've looked good for two games. So I'm hoping that that continues, for further weeks.
definitely, definitely. So I mean, this game. Let's talk about the game a little bit. The game got off to a little bit of a scary start when our he's been great for us, Trenton Cannon, our kick returner, kind of
Mm.
like lost the ball in the sun and kind of like muffed the opening kickoff, and we got pinned at the 10 to start the drive. So it's like, oh, okay, well this is
Yeah, it's not a good start. Not ideal.
yeah, it's like this is not gonna potentially be good. So we'd start from the 10-yard line, but we take the drive all the way down to the Jacksonville 2-yard line. Now, I know we talked about it on last week's show when we had the 18 play, 88-yard drive, which took 11 minutes and 8 seconds off the clock. This drive was even longer than that. So we had the longest drive.
13 minutes and
Yeah.
5 seconds.
Yeah, we took pretty much the whole quarter off on a
What
20
the?
play drive. Yeah.
Is that like an NFL record?
It's the longest drive by any team since 2000.
God
Yeah,
damn,
yeah.
that
So
is
in
ridiculous.
21 years, yeah, that's the long.
Wow.
Yeah. So in the last two games, the Niners have been vastly out controlling the other team in the time of possession. Let me just real quick give you the time of possession number here.
Wow.
Time
Yeah,
of
vastly.
possession
That's
time of
perfect.
possession
Absolutely.
for the 49ers, 38 minutes 22 seconds. Jacksonville possessed the ball 21 minutes 38 seconds. So we doubled them up
Wow.
in time of possession.
Just about. Wow.
Yeah, and the Niners also another thing. We've been struggling with penalties. Only one penalty committed in that game. That was
Yeah,
really great.
preventing the penalties is just as crucial as having the team play, the way they're supposed to. If
Right.
you're drawing penalties, you're just losing the game for yourself. Who was it that had the four? Was that the Raiders Cowboys game? They had the four defensive pass interference. Antonio Brown. Who is that? His
Yeah,
name?
yeah. Anthony
No,
Brown.
it's not.
Yeah,
Anthony Brown.
yeah,
I knew it was.
yeah,
I wasn't
yeah,
sure. All right, yeah. Four defensive pass interference calls in the same
yeah.
game. That was the Cowboys.
Yeah,
He's on the Cowboys, right?
yeah. I
Yeah.
saw a meme where it was like Raiders MVP, and it showed him.
Yeah, I saw
I
that
was
too.
like, all right, well that's. I guess take it any way you'll get it. And it's hard to win in the NFL, so win's a win. But
Yeah, definitely. And I was happy to see that. Anytime to see the Cowboys lose, especially on Thanksgiving.
yeah, yeah. But I mean, I love to see that drive. I mean, the only thing that was bad about that drive is that they had to come away with 3 points and kick a field goal. And Kyle actually was planning on going for it at first, and then he took it. He had the offense out there, and then he took a timeout, and he's like, I was really mad about not going for it, but he's like, after having the ball that much, he's like, I really wouldn't have wanted to come away with anything. It would have been a huge victory for Jacksonville to get stopped and not do anything.
Right.
So, how did Jacksonville follow up? Well, they went 3-and-out on their first offensive drive, and it was bad. I think Trevor Lawrence completed one pass for 5 yards, and they ended up punting the ball back to us. On the following drive, Debo Samuel would score his third rushing touchdown of the season. So that puts him within one of Tavon Austin's all-time record of wide receivers that have scored rushing touchdowns. The record's four. That was Debo's third. So he's within one, which
He's
is
probably
pretty
going to
awesome.
break that record then, I would say.
he's got a good chance to hopefully break that record this coming Sunday against Minnesota. I'm hoping that he's able to do that. But yeah, Tavon Austin, ironically enough, former Rams player, was on the Jacksonville sideline. Tavon Austin's best days, of being a dynamic player, kind of behind him. He's more of like a role player now for Jacksonville. I think he had like one catch on two targets for the day, but yeah. So I'm hoping Debo breaks that record because that'd be a cool record to get. I mean, Kyle with this new utilization of Debo in the running game has really been able to allow us to run the ball like 40 times a game. Because normally you wouldn't put that much wear and tear on a running back, but I mean Debo's taking 5, 6, 7 carries a game, and that
Mhm.
spells your back, so you're able to do a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they've ran it was over 150 plus yards for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, yeah, and in the game against the Rams as well as this game, we had over 40 rushes. So that's two straight games with over 40 rushes. So that's hard to do in today's football where everything's based around the pass.
Absolutely. So many teams and quarterbacks they get those 300 plus yards, 350 plus yard games, and then you see, when a team can do this kind of thing, it's not as common, and it's good to see.
It's traditional
Especially teams
football.
exactly, and especially teams like the Niners and like Washington that were big run heavy teams back in the day. It's always cool to see that when they are able to go back and
Absolutely.
go back to the
Yeah,
roots
just
kind
just
of.
recapture the glory days, and it's never a bad strategy, especially as you get into December football where the weather gets terrible, to just be able to run
Yeah,
the ball down somebody's throat. You can't throw interceptions, and like the wind's not a factor as much if you're running the football. So
right,
that's a good
right.
way to win. Play good defense and run the football. Limit the
Yeah,
turnovers.
watching the side note here, watching that Buckeyes game at Stars this weekend. Man, the snow there was
Yeah,
ridiculous. Like
yeah.
I'm just the whole time sitting there thinking like they are gonna sit there and play, and some of those guys got no sleeves on and stuff. I'm like these people are crazy.
We were talking about the guys playing with the no sleeves. We're like, yeah, you're definitely a tough guy out there without the
Yeah,
sleeves on. Yeah.
yeah, it's probably like 35 degrees there. Or I think actually no, I think it was
I think it's at
29.
30.
I
Yeah,
think I
yeah,
think we looked. It was 29 degrees actually
yeah.
because I
I,
was curious. I was like, I gotta see how cold it is there
I
because
think
that's
that's what it said
insane.
because they had the little thing up on the screen, and I think it did say 29 at one point. So
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right. It did.
definitely below freezing.
Yeah, insane.
Yeah. So I mean, as crazy as that was, so Jacksonville gets the ball back, right, and then after going 3 and out and running 3 plays. So mind you, at this point, Jacksonville's run 3 plays in one quarter because the Niners just possessed the ball so long. Trevor Lawrence completes a pass to Laviska Shenault, their receiver, who gets a good gain. He gets 10 yards. He picks up a first down, and then he gets the ball punched out by Josh Norman, who Josh Norman's best contribution to us this season he's forced 3 or 4 fumbles. He's great at that. He gets the
That's
ball
good.
out so good.
He's got to do something. He's had a lot of pass interference calls, so
DPIs, yeah,
it's yeah, it's
yeah,
good to see that at least he is contributing
he's
some,
he's
and him being
offsetting.
an ex Redskins player,
Yeah.
it's good to at least see him doing something good.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Norman needs to contain his emotions. I like Josh Norman as a player, but that situation against Arizona a few weeks back, where he was yelling at Cliff Kingsbury on the sideline and got himself ejected
Yeah,
from the,
yeah, that
or
was
or he didn't
ridiculous,
get himself
man.
ejected. Kyle benched him, is what it was, because Kyle wanted him to cool down. But I
Yeah,
will give him this in weeks past against the Rams, going up against Odell. And Odell's the guy that, back from the Washington days when Washington, I don't know if you remember any of these games, but when Washington used to play the Giants, him and Odell got into like fist fights a couple times. Like, so that's an intense rivalry. But he covered
oh
Odell
shit,
super well. Him and E-Man covered him up. Emmanuel Mosley, they covered
yeah.
Odell well in that game. But and then in this game against obviously Trevor Lawrence is a rookie, so he's not going to make as many good plays. But um, yeah, so he forces the ball out. Fred Warner would recover the ball at the Jacksonville 45. So we're already in Jacksonville territory, and we're up 10-0 already. Um, so Yeah, so then we end up scoring on our third straight drive. We end up getting down there, and Jimmy hits Ayuk in the back of the end zone for a really nice, well thrown ball. It wasn't too high or any. I know a lot of times Jimmy might throw the ball a little bit too high. People don't like that. I get that. That can sometimes be a dangerous situation for the receiver. But he hit Ayuk
Yeah.
perfectly in the back of the end zone, and that would give us our third straight drive with a touchdown, and give Ayuk his third touchdown catch of the season to put us up 17 to nothing at that point. Jacksonville did that, pretty much the only thing they did all game by putting together their best drive, and all they could come away with was a 30-yard Matthew Wright field goal. The game 17 to 3, and there's about I think there's just under 2 minutes left in the game, and we were able to add an additional field goal, and we actually hit rookie third round pick Trey Sermon, who was helping fill in. It was Jeff Wilson and Trey Sermon, since Elijah Mitchell was out that game, and he hit him on a nice wheel route, which was able to get us in range for a Robbie Gould 48-yard field goal. So we took a 20 to 3 lead in against Jacksonville. So that was definitely pretty good.
Yeah, that's a solid lead. At that point, you pretty much know, like, yeah, we this is a win.
Yeah, at
You don't
that
really got to
point,
worry too much.
at that
They're
point, I
not as fun
definitely
to
wasn't.
watch, but
Yeah.
sorry.
No, no, I was just gonna say, like, it's great to see your team like dominate another team, because like you said, yeah, the game's
Absolutely.
over and it's not gonna be competitive, but it's not a nail biter, and those sometimes like stress you the fuck out, and you're like, oh my
That's
god.
kind of what I was gonna say. Like,
Yeah,
it's not like as fun to watch,
yeah,
but like it is when it's a nail biter, that's like
yeah.
too close. So
I
like it is really great when it's your team and
yeah,
it is 20 to 3 and you're like, this is nice. I
yeah.
mean, the rest of the game you're pretty much fine, but it's nice.
I would rather win with blowouts than have my. I mean, there's enough good games in the NFL that I don't need my team to have a good game every week. Like I'm happy to blow a team out 50 to 10. Like I'll take that all game. I don't give a shit if it's competitive. I mean, if we're getting like looks at Trey Lance and Nate Sudfeld in the second half, like great. Let's see them. Let's fucking see what we
Yeah,
got.
that's
Like
true. That's a good
yeah,
point actually.
yeah.
That's
Like
true.
let's see the future. I mean,
Bring in the backups.
I have no issue with that. Plus, like your starters can't get injured when they're sitting on the bench.
Absolutely, yeah. Bring in the backups. Come
Yeah,
on, guys, let's go.
yeah,
Like, get some practice in here.
exactly. You want those guys to be fresh and have experience in the offense if they need to be called up this time of year, especially God forbid if they get called upon in the playoffs. But
Yeah, absolutely. Like, look at Taylor Heineke.
yeah,
Oh, look, I'm the quarterback for this team in the
yeah,
playoffs against the
COVID
Buccaneers.
quarterback to like starting the last game of the season because Alex couldn't
Hmm.
go, and then
Yeah.
having to start the playoff game. So you never know. Next man up. It's the saying.
Yep.
And so Jacksonville would get the ball coming out of the half, and they proceeded to go 3 and out in 18 seconds and punt the ball back to the Niners. So yeah.
God, that's got to be some kind of record, and not a record you want to have.
I don't know. I don't know if it's a wreck because I could imagine a team like throwing 3 times and going like 3 and out, like maybe 9 or 10 seconds.
I
But
guess that's
yeah,
true.
yeah,
That's a good point.
it wasn't great.
That's
Uh,
bad though. That was
yeah.
my point. That's real bad.
So after so after Jacksonville punted, the Niners went on another long drive, not like those ones, but an 11-play, 77-yard drive, and we capped this off with a touchdown pass to Kittle. So this was the Kittle's third straight game with a touchdown pass, first time or touchdown catch, first time he's ever had 3 straight games with a touchdown catch in his career. So that was awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah. And love to see Kittle doing work. I
yeah.
mean,
He,
he's
he
just
blocks so hard he deserves to be rewarded with a touchdown. Legitimately,
absolutely, absolutely.
guy does work. Yeah, so that would give Jimmy his second touchdown pass of the game after he found Ayuk earlier. And yeah, so Kittle had that play. However, I want to talk about the play prior. And we talked about when we were talking about the games earlier, the Giants' only touchdown coming on a tackle eligible touchdown from Daniel Jones to Andrew Thomas. But on the play before Jimmy finds Kittle, Trent Williams reports as eligible. So he lines up as a tight end, and Jalen Moore comes in and fills in for him. And
Oh
Jimmy
wow.
throws the ball to him, but Trent Williams is double covered. Like Trent jumped up, like and made a play on the ball, but it was incomplete, and it looked like he might have been
Oh
pass
man.
interfered with a little bit. And they were interviewing him after the game, and they asked Trent Williams, they're like, "Is that the first time in your whole career you've ever been eligible?" And he's like, "First time." And they're like, "Even in college?" He's like, "First time."
First time. That's
And and
awesome,
and I
though.
guess like he's been saying since he was a rookie in Washington, he's been calling for Kyle to throw that play to him. And they said they've been practicing it. Like they asked Jimmy about it after the game, and Jimmy's like, honestly, he's like, I was going to him regardless, because I guess Kittle was open in the back of the end zone, but he's like, because Trent Williams wants the touchdown so bad. He blocks his ass off every single game. He deserves to get one NFL touchdown.
That would be
But
fucking awesome.
yeah,
Damn it! I'm so mad
yeah,
he didn't get
yeah.
it.
So Jimmy,
Damn.
so they'll call it again. I bet they'll call it.
I
But
hope
but
so.
now
That would
teams are
be.
going to
I
be
hope I
looking
see
for
it
it.
too,
Yeah,
because I didn't see that game
yeah,
because it was on at the same time
yeah.
as the Washington game. So
I'll send you the clip after this. But yeah, it was a hell of a play. Like it sucked that he had double coverage because he might have come up with it.
yeah, of course he's going to be doubled though. I mean, it's Trent
Yeah,
Williams. They got.
yeah,
Although he was lined up as a tight end though, he wasn't on the
yeah,
line though. So,
yeah, yeah. So they and they do have to declare when he comes in as eligible. They have to say, number 71 is reporting as eligible as an eligible receiver. So they
oh
announce
right,
it.
okay.
Yeah. But Jimmy after the game, he's like, "Yeah, I was going to him either way." And then he's like, "Well, he's like, were you worried about it when he saw he was double covered?" And he's like, "Honestly, he's like in practice he was making one-handed catches, so he's like he can do it." So
No
Trent's
shit.
got good hands. So I'd love to see Trent get his touchdown, but I'd love to see Kittle
Absolutely,
scoring, but I want to see that happen at some point.
definitely.
So at this point, we're up 27-3, with 8:49 to play in the third quarter, and for the second straight week, the Niners didn't punt until the third quarter. We didn't punt until there was 2:51 left in the quarter, in the third quarter.
That is great. Yeah, the punter. If the punter can sit on the bench, as long as possible the entire game, if you can do it, that is
Yeah,
the best. Like I'm sure for the punter, they're kind of like, oh man, I have nothing to do. But everyone else is like, oh, I definitely don't want to see him out.
yeah. We do. I will say this: we do use Wisnowski to kick off a lot, and then we do also have him hold on the field goals and extra points. So he was doing something. He's got to earn his money somehow. But yeah, not punting until late in the game.
Yeah, that's always good.
Yeah. And like I said, that was the second straight week. Like against the Rams, it was the same way. We didn't punt until the second half, so that was good. And then when we would punt for the second time on Wisnowski's second punt, the aforementioned Tavon Austin, who has the record of 4 rushing touchdowns for a wide receiver, was back for the punt, and he would muff it. And Trent Sherfield, who's basically been relegated to playing special teams recently, came up with his first big play in weeks. With a big fumble recovery. That was huge. He was right there and was able to pull the ball away from Tavon Austin and give the Niners great field position. We were able to come away on that drive with a field goal and go up 30-3. So that was definitely good. And that was all the points we'd score on the game. We avoided any penalties until 3:09 to play in the fourth quarter, when Jaquaski Tart was called for defensive pass interference, which was the 17th defensive pass interference call
Mm.
against the Niners this season, which would give the Jags the ball at the 1. So we basically gift wrapped them a touchdown. And then on the following play, James Robinson, the Jacksonville running back, would score from a yard out, make the game 30-10, which would be the final score. And really, the only thing notable from there is with 3:04 to play in the game, the Niners and Kyle Shanahan did put in Trey Lance, to which there were loud cheers from the 49ers fans, who were
Yeah.
it was weird. The game happened in Jacksonville, and the crowd was at least like maybe 50-60% red for the Niners. It was really probably
Hmm.
disheartening for the Jaguars to see, but
Yeah, I would imagine.
oh, touchdown Ravens.
Nice.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, so Trey Lance came in to finish the game, as did Aaron Banks, who is our rookie second round pick. He really hasn't played much. A lot of people have said he's kind of a disappointment, but he did come in. He's been working with offensive line coach Chris Forrester, and he did come in on that last drive and get about 5 snaps. So did Trey Lance. Best play of the drive was a 6-yard run on a 3rd and 5 to pick up a first down and keep the clock rolling. After that, the Niners were able to go into victory formation and run out the clock and get the 30-10 win. So big win for the Niners. Like I said, that gets us up to 5-5 and into the wild card hunt. That's exciting.
Yep.
It's awesome.
Yeah, with those 7 spots now, I mean, there's just a lot of room.
There's
A lot of teams
definitely
can
hope.
get in.
Definitely hope.
So
We've got a much tougher test this upcoming week against Minnesota. They're going to have a lot more explosive of an offense than going up against Trevor Lawrence. They
yeah,
obviously have Dalvin Cook, who's I think one of the top 3 backs in the NFL, along with
absolutely.
Jonathan Taylor and Derrick Henry.
And Derrick Henry.
Yeah, and so he's going to be tough to contain because he's also a threat to catch the ball too. And if that's not enough, you've got Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, and all that as well. And Kirk Cousins having a great season. He hasn't thrown a pick in 6 weeks. So hopefully that changes in this next game against the Vikings. We're the thing I wanted to mention was injury updates coming into that game. Kyle did announce that we're going to have Dre Greenlaw, who hasn't played since week 1 when he had a pick 6 against Goff, returning. Also, D Ford is coming off IR, and Elijah Mitchell after missing last week. Like we mentioned, it was Jeff Wilson, Debo, and Trey Sermon running the ball in the last game. So I think we run the ball the best when we have Jeff Wilson and Elijah Mitchell both in there. So looking forward to having that for the second game this season, and hopefully we can run for about 150 yards on Minnesota, and maybe we'll have our third straight game with 40 plus rushing attempts. I'm sure that would be some kind of modern day NFL record because nobody runs like that anymore. But
and Kirk Cousins throws his first pick in 6 weeks or however
yeah,
long.
yeah. I mean, we're hoping, fingers crossed. Kirk Cousins. It's not a primetime game. I'd be feeling better about it if it was happening on Monday Night Football. That's where Kirk seems to have his biggest struggles. But
Right.
last thing I just wanted to cover real quick. Some last minute roster news. We released Austin Watkins Jr., who's been on our practice squad all season, and we picked up a former 2nd-round pick of the Carolina Panthers, Devin Funchess, who's actually played with Cam. He was a 2nd-round pick back in 2016, I believe. And also we have cornerback Luke Barku were added to the practice squad. So no announcement as far as either of those guys being called up for Sunday's game, but just notable additions to the team throughout the week. I mean, Funches could potentially be a big pickup, especially if we have an injury to a receiver going down the line here. He just hopefully
Yeah, it's always good to have that depth
have depth
in the roster.
Yeah,
So.
absolutely. But yeah, that's about it. Other than the sack numbers, I just wanted to cover. I always like to talk about what the Niners defense does. Obviously, we held Jacksonville to 10 points and 2 turnovers. We had 2 fumbles. Obviously, the muffed punt and the Laviska Shenault fumble on Jacksonville's second drive. So we didn't have any turnovers. So for the second straight game, we win the turnover margin, and that's always the recipe for winning football, running the ball and winning the turnover margin. So we won that 2-0.
Really?
And we had 3 sacks, 2 from Bosa, which brought his NFL, or I say NFL, but team high to 10. And Arden Key had his 3rd sack. So backup defensive lineman Arden Key picked up from the Raiders, having a big impact for us. So like to see them getting in there and getting 3 sacks. So that's all we have for the Niners news update this week. Join us next week as we discuss what happened on the Minnesota game. Like we said, it's going to be a harder matchup. It's going to be strength versus strength as far as the play callers. Niners offensive play caller Kyle Shanahan versus Minnesota Vikings defensive play caller and head coach Mike Zimmer. So stay tuned to see how that goes. We're hoping for a big win for the Niners. That would definitely help us stay in the playoff hunt and keep us in a good position. And then we have Seattle the following week. So hopefully, Washington can do us a favor and beat Seattle tomorrow night. Get them a little
Absolutely.
bit And that's going to do it for the Extra Point Show. Thanks for tuning in for the 10th edition. Hopefully, you guys have been following around for all 10. We actually made it to 10. That's a big number, double digits. So stay tuned each week. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. And tell your friends about the show if you like it. We will have weekly content and recap the NFL next week and any big news.
Yep. See you next week, everyone.
And that's going to do it for the Extra Point Show. Thanks for tuning in for the 10th edition. Hopefully, you guys have been following around for all 10. We actually made it to 10. That's a big number, double digits. So stay tuned each week. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. And tell your friends about the show if you like it. We will have weekly content and recap the NFL next week and any big news.
Yep. See you next week, everyone.